What's going on? Coach Luka here with the Vigor Life podcast, and look at who we got in the studio today, man. We're trying to get on the Zoom pod. I was like, man, let's not do this.
No Zooms. We're in person.
We're gonna go here. We got the Becoming a Super Coach event tomorrow, and none other than Don Saladino in the building. My brother from another mother, baby.
Really is. He really is.
And here, this is. I love this, man, because we get to, right before we started, we're kind of like, all right, what are we going to talk about? Well, it's like two things that we can talk about for forever, but we're going to talk about training, and we're going to talk about the business of training. But I wanted to, listen, I wanted to start with, because a lot of times we're just talking about how our training is, right? But going to like what most people, like I'm in this athlete for life mentality that, literally for the last years, it's like, that's my spiel, athlete for life. But like you're basically, in a lot of ways when we train, we're like, there's so much of the stuff we do is very similar.
So similar.
But I wanted to like look at your frame for a lot of the people that you coach, and again, when you coach, we talked about like the people that train at your gym versus the people that you train online. If you were like, if we zoomed out 10,000 feet and said, all right, look, for somebody to have a sustainable approach to training and nutrition, and they wanted to look, again, when I say realistic, is like when you're when you're on a cover of a magazine, it's like that's hard to maintain because it's like, shit, I'm not gonna eat and live like this. But to get to a spot where somebody's feeling good, they're strong, they have the performance side of it, but they're lean and healthy. When you go like zoom 10,000 feet out, what are the principles that Don kind of applies to training and nutrition and lifestyle to get them there?
No, listen, it's a great question, and it really doesn't change, right? Like there's certain things that I just look at, and I know you and I we're so aligned on everything that we do, from business to training to nutrition. There's things I look at from a training standpoint of consistency, right? Like most people, I'm not expecting them to come in and train like you and I.
Yeah.
And if they saw the way that they train, they'd probably be turned off and never want to train. So I'm not coming in here. But that's who we are.
Yeah.
And it's really what we're built on. Like coming in, and we just had a session today. I don't even want to tell people how long we trained for, but you want to keep going, and we live for that. And right now we even feel great. But I think understanding that consistency for the general population is something that they really fail to do. So let's get them consistent at first. I think there's things from a hydration standpoint, a sleep standpoint, that are just non-negotiables. Water is something that you should never, get rid of. Like it's just, you're traveling, you're on a trip, always keep hydration at a high level. Sleep, we need sleep. One day away from it, fine, we can get away with it. When you have this consistent pattern, things are gonna go to crap. And I do believe in food quality, right? Like we need to make sure that we're getting a significant amount of protein. We need to make sure we're getting our veggies, we're getting our carbohydrates, depending on the individual and how they metabolize carbs. Some people with higher carb levels or lower carb levels. But I think these are general principles where if you really focus on that, and obviously stress. I mean, stress is something that's going to beat the crap out of all of us. But if you focus on those basic things and you really just try and dial that in, I really believe you're going to get like 80% there.
All the way there.
Now, I feel like, what does that mean? Like, all right, well, waking up every morning, looking at yourself naked and being like, wow, okay, I'm in a really good spot, having a high level of energy, wanting to being able to rebound from doing things that you enjoy doing, going out for a run and waking up the next day and feeling good. Being a little sore is fine, but like actually
not being beat up.
But actually not feeling like you're crippled.
Yep.
So I think these are things that most people are they're always looking for this magic answer, this magic pill. It's not changing. Like Luka, today, if you break down our workout, like what did we do in the beginning? We did agility. Okay, well, people have been doing that for centuries. Yeah. Like, we pulled weight off the floor. People have been doing that for centuries, right? We did pull-ups. Wow, they like groundbreaking exercises here. We did rows, but like, if you think about it, like, there's no magic pill here. But in the people who are really great at this, the people like yourself, I feel like understand that the basics are really what you got to pay attention to.
And the reason I ask you is because, I think sometimes it's like, okay, what is he gonna say? And it's like, oh,
it's boring,
right? But this is what I'm saying though. Like,
it's boring.
Because what I want to dive into is actually, I've always, I've been such a geek. Like we're both geeks on the training side of things. Like we studied so much stuff and still do.
Yeah.
But I started to get very intrigued about like, okay, most people, right? You get a client and you ask them like, hey, what are some things you think you should do? They'll give you the rant. Like, I should probably start lifting weights. I should probably. It's like, okay, so the next step, but you're not taking the next step, and it's like, how do we get people to take the next step?
There's a lot of excuses. So this morning I was answering a question online, and a woman said, I'm not perfect, but I'm a lot better than, she was talking about the supermarket. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm a lot better than most. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Like, why are you even trying to justify? Why are you comparing yourself to other people? Like, even today, there are things that you are exceptional at in the gym, and there are things that I'm pretty good at also. We're not competing with each other. We're competing with ourselves. Yeah. And the idea is, don't go into a supermarket and look at everyone in that supermarket and say, well, there's 20 people here who are obese and I'm not as bad. Like, that's a terrible approach. It's a terrible attitude to have. Like, what do you need to do to improve? And I always tell people, if you're bad at transitioning into a healthy lifestyle, take one thing, hydration. Say you're bad at drinking water. Spend the next 4 weeks getting really good at
4 weeks.
That's
not like
it.
4 weeks.
That's it. Yeah. Don't say, I'm going to add hydration and I'm going to try and go to bed at 10 o'clock, but I go to bed at 1 in the morning, and I'm going to go do 90-minute workouts every day. Oh, and last year I probably worked out only 3 days, and they're throwing all this crap on their lap, and it's ridiculous. If you took one thing a month, all your clients, and you were able to change one thing a month on every one of your clients,
Massive. It'd be massive, yeah. Because it's like, I remember, just from my story, because I used to not sleep a lot, work too much.
Yeah.
And still work too much, but sleep enough now. But it took me like 8 months to fix my sleep. Because it was, I was sleeping 3-4 hours a night at work. Takes time, right? I couldn't be like, next week I'm going to start.
No way.
But that was the one thing I focused on that year, because it was bad. I did my blood work, that wasn't good. I was like, holy shit, this is not good. But when I fixed that, it was like legit. It was like, dude, it's like I'm on steroids or something, right? Because it was my energy was better, my numbers went up, I got leaner, but I didn't change all this other stuff, right? Like, but it's really easy, and maybe it's because of this, because you're getting hit by social media about all these this crazy method and this, that, the other. But it's like, fuck, like if you're sleeping 5-6 hours a night and you get to 7 or 8, like, dude, this would be groundbreaking stuff, right?
If you can improve 15 minutes a night, you even know the addition of that over a week, over a month. It's just, right? I think most people are just throwing way too much stuff on their lap, and they lose, they're not feeling encouraged, right? Like, and think about this. You have an individual wake up and go, I'm not hungry in the morning. I don't eat breakfast. And I'm like, okay, how are your workouts? I'm exhausted during my workouts, right? And I'm like, all right, well, breakfast kind of has to be taught and earned then. Like, if you just spent the last 5 years of your life not eating until 12, 1 o'clock, no wonder you're not hungry, right? Like, it's normal. Like, you have to start building that up. So what do? Try an egg in the morning. Well, is that enough? I'm not talking about what's enough. It's 6 grams of protein. No, it's not enough. Right now, it's enough. Have a couple of berries. Well, is that enough? Like, stop looking for what's best. Let's start transitioning. Maybe that 1 egg becomes 3 eggs. Maybe you throw a piece of turkey on that. Maybe out of nowhere, you start adding a tablespoon of oats. That's not enough. No, but we start building that up over time. Everyone wants this quick fix, and then they end up losing, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? The ability to be able to develop that consistency.
Well, the thing is, because what you're talking about is momentum, right? The quick, like, it's like if I can win, I'll keep winning. I'll keep stacking on the wins. And I mean, that's the thing. It comes back to being able, the word, like, patience. But like, I've started even, and we'll get to the business side of things. But but it's like, the mentality comes to training and nutrition when it comes to business. Patience, as far as like, where now I'm like, all right, I'm doing this thing, but it's like in 2 years it's gonna pay off. Rather than like in 2 months. It's like, hey, in the next year, what can I do? I at least for me, and what it's done for some clients, but I've get them into this framework, is like, gets you away from being stressed and anxious about the result this week or next week. It's like this, quarter, this, 6 months, like, because now you can build it up, and it's not like, I did this thing real quick. All of a sudden I did 4 workouts and I'm cutting all my carbs out. That's not going to be sustainable, and that's just, it's crazy. And so getting somebody into the framework of like, focus on this process, get wins, don't worry about it being optimal, right? If you draw a chart, right, whatever we want, and it's like, we're here, this is optimal right here, right?
Right.
You're not going to just fucking jump to here. Like,
most people aren't, no.
But it's like, could you do this? Yeah, like, do that, and then just keep moving along.
Right. I always say, and you say this too, it's like we got to fall in love with the process a little bit. I mean, every successful business person that I've been around, and there's been some pretty big names out there, they didn't just decide to go into business one day and, let me just figure it out as I go. right? Like I'm sure Mike Bloomberg wasn't waking up one morning saying, "Oh, I'm going to develop Bloomberg right now, and I'm going to sell it to this is going to be the main way of being able to read the markets, and we're just going to throw balls in the air and hope it sticks." Yet that's most people's approaches with fitness. Yeah. They're just pulling shit off the internet. Oh, I found this YouTube workout. Oh, I read this diet. Like, if you want to be great at something, recognize the areas you're weak in. If you're going into business and you can't handle certain things in business, then find someone to take that. If you do not know about nutrition or training, go spend some money on that. Because otherwise, I really believe these things are what's going to hold you down. It's a line I always use: clean your side of the street. If your side of the street's dirty, I really don't think that you're going to be able to live your life to the fullest.
And to kind of piggyback on that, like, yeah. My thought, like when I did a little vlogish, but when we did this training session, I was like, man, the biggest lesson in that is this. Like, I think the fastest way to change behaviors is to change your environment, right? Like,
love it.
And it's because if I get, put it this way, if somebody gets around us when we're training, like, you're gonna have probably the best training session of your life. Yeah. I don't give yeah. Like, it's gonna happen. Yeah. I don't give a shit because
sounds egotistical, but it's the truth. No, it's the truth.
It's not like I look at it as like not so much egotistical, because what are you trying to do? Like, you're trying to extract the best out of that person. Every single thing we're saying down there, man, you got 2 more in you, man. I know you have 2 more in you, and then you believe it, right?
Yeah.
And what do? Like, they get 2 more, or they get 3 more. And so you kind of started hurrying to these higher standards, right? We're tribal. People are tribal, right? Like, we adhere to the standard of society. So
show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Man.
Yeah, me and you talk about it. If we were training, listen, I have some great training partners at home. It's a different gear with me and you. If we were around each other, I was joking. I said, well, would we be in the best shape of our life, or would we be crippled? We were kind of laughing at, obviously we wouldn't be crippled, but I really believe that the environment you put yourself in, you will rise to the occasion. When you're around greatness, I believe you become great. And that's just who I am. And I think that also comes down to being in life and eliminating negativity and eliminating people that are holding you down. And I've had to do that in my life. I've had people very close to me that are just negative and holding me down that I loved. And I had to cut it off because I can't, I'm a very positive person. And there's a lot of shit out there.
Not you, dude.
No, yeah.
By the way, if you're around Don, like, it's like negativity is like that, you know what I'm saying? Like that meme. This guy's blocking. No, but it's true.
It's true.
It's true. Like, we'll talk about stuff that might be a problem, but it's like that stuff is out.
Yeah.
And so with that said, because even like, for instance, all your online programs, like when you enter that, you are now in a different environment.
Sure.
Right? Everybody in there is striving, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're obviously there in there. It's like the energy's bananas.
Yeah.
And it's like you come to Vigor, different energy, coaching. People are trying to do something better. So now it's like, I'm around people that are adhering to something else, right? Different values. And for me, it's the same thing with, masterminds, courses, you want to get around aspirational people. So it's like, oh, this person's doing something I want to do.
What did I say to you in Texas when I was saying goodbye to you? I gave you a hug. I said, I love you. I said, I said, you push me, brother.
Yeah.
I said, there's not too many people that do that. I said, you push me in a good way because I see you holding yourself to a certain level, and I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm sorry, excuse my language, but I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like, this is what I believe in. This is what I want to be around. I don't want to be around someone who's selling themselves short. Mm-hmm. I want to be around someone who's going for it, and if they fail, they fail. And at least I look at them and go, dude, you went for it. Like, that's part of life. Like, what are we doing this all for? 50, 60 years from now, we're all gone. It doesn't matter what was in our bank account. Like, what mark did we make on other people? So, but I think surrounding ourselves with great people, then we want to start uplifting each other. That's why it's like any business deal I have or any company I work with, like, I'm telling them about you.
Hell yeah.
I'm on Mind Pump the other day. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about Kelsey because I love you guys. You're like, I want to see everyone do well, and that's what it's about. When you get around people who truly care and they're in for it for everyone to win, I think it becomes special, man.
And I want to bring this up. I mean, obviously, like, it's not to just hype you up because it's all true, but like, you do that like all the time.
All the time.
And it's like every time. Think about this when we leave Dallas or anywhere else, dude. Like, I'm fired up. Right? It's like I want to go back. I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to help more people. Like, and the question is, like, are you around that? Like, the people that you're around when they leave or you're spending time together. How are you feeling? Discouraged? Are you fired up? Are you like, man, I can in a positive way be like, man, I can be better, right? Because if I'm not doing something well and I see better, I don't get down about that, right? It's almost like, look, man, like I want to push like that guy's pushing.
I think that's partially why we do it, right? Like why did we get on a plane and go to Dallas? I mean, obviously Nick and Derek are great people.
Yeah.
Andrew's our boy. We love Andrew to death. But I think part of the reason why we're there, besides educating people, it's not like we're getting a big check for that.
No.
So what are we like? Did we really convert so many people to buying our? No. Like I think we do a lot of this stuff because we need to keep elevating our game. And like every time we're on stage, we learn something. You leave there, you're a better speaker. I'm a better speaker. You think about things a little bit differently. You get more comfortable. You get more fired up. You might meet a couple of people who are like, wow, I like what they're doing, right? Like this is special. And I think that's part of it. And I think that's why I do it. That's one of the main reasons why.
For sure. And it's, who was I just saying this to? Oh, Matt Turner downstairs, rugby from the Seawolves team. But I was like, man, like this is, to me, this is like the moment that I can't, if I'm doing something just for, it's a strategy to grow the business. Okay, I get that too. But to me, I'm like, am I fired up about this? Am I going to be around people that, are going to challenge me? I'm going to be excited about. That's such a big part. And the thing is, to connect that, the reason I bring it up, because all roads lead me back to this. You want to get in the best shape of your life. Man, find people that like are not living at a standard that you're currently living. Because I always say, like, if you don't have a path or plan, the default is struggle. You go back to how you're doing things, and if always, how's that working for you? If it's not working well, you got to change it, right? Like, and so again, it's like whether it's hey, you're not eating breakfast, how's that working for you? Not working. Great. Like let's.
I couldn't agree with you anymore.
And so you got to change it. But to me, it's like there's nothing like obviously you see the books everywhere. Like I'm always studying, always learning. But like the fastest way is like if I'm around people and I'm like seeing how they operate like all the time. Like okay, like that these are the things I'm learning more than anything, right? Because I'm seeing how they operate, and that's the way I'm going to start operating to get those same things. But here's another thing too, like that I wanted to ask you, and because I want to shift to that like top. If you look at the top, is there anything in the top 5 to 10% of people that you've coached? And I don't care, whether it's celebrities or non-celebrities, that you're like, man, that top 5, 10% of the people that I've coached, here's some things that they do that others don't do. Is there something that pops out at you?
Yeah, I think some of them that are really great at this. They have this level of trust. So they'll come into me and they'll almost surrender a bit. And they're like, I know you know better. Like I've, in the past, we've all battled with certain people who come in, and I actually hate them. Well, this is what I do. And they start telling me what they do. And I find that helpful because I like to know, what did you work on? What do you enjoy, et cetera. But all right, you going to let me coach now? Or are you just going to keep talking about the things that you did or your old coach did? Like, I'm here. Part of this is that we want to get you better. I'm not here to have you live in purgatory or have you maintain this specific level. Like, I have an ego with this stuff. You're coming to me, my reputation's on the line. I want to get you better. And I noticed that with some of the people that are really great at this, they immediately come in. They're like, all right, man, like, tell me how high do I have to jump?
That's such a good point, by the way. Because you know what it makes me think about? There's been times that I've been frustrated around even like my own, like for instance, I'll watch somebody, they're just killing it, right? And then I'll meet them and I'll talk to them. And like, I know all this stuff about marketing. Like I've read all that, know how to copy it. And then they're like, yeah, man, I don't really know. Like, but I hired this person and I just did everything they told me to do, right? And they killed it, right? But it's like, you got so much, for me, it was like, maybe I knew too much, but I didn't, execute. It was like, I'm doing a lot of things. No. Just forget about all this. Surrender and like do this thing.
I've had to do this because in the past a few times we would go in and we would start like, I found this in business early on. Like we started, well, what do you want to, I got to the point where I would go in and I'd just say, what do you think we need here? I'm going to give you all the information that you need. I want to follow your expertise, because what would happen later on is that when it wasn't successful, they would come back to us and be like, well, we told you early on that this is what was working and you wanted to go this route. And then you're like, fuck. Like, oh man, like I really messed this up. Even when I go get my hair cut now, like I go to Kristen Serafino, she does, Ryan's hair, all these people, and she's phenomenal. She's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, whatever you think. Like, honestly, like, I surrender because, like, what am I going to do? Like, give me the same. And you know what she did? Every season now, she's kind of changing the length of my hair. She's doing things a little bit differently. It sounds funny, but it's like, no. She's like, you got to evolve. throughout the year. You can't sit here with the same thing over and over and over. So I'm like, I thought that was a cool and interesting approach. But surrendering is something that you got to recognize where your lane is and what your strong points are. And the areas that you're not strong at, stop telling me. I've had clients in the past come to me and they're telling me. I had a guy recently, very close friend of mine, who turned around and he was like, Don, I feel amazing off your meal plan. Like, I feel incredible. I was like, well, what do you think's different? He goes, you have me eating carbs. I was like, so-and-so. I'm gonna name him Mike. Mike, I have eaten carbs now. And he's like, yeah. How's your body comp? It feels amazing. Your energy's amazing. My sleep's great. I talked to him a week later. You know what he said to me? I cut my carbs. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, why? He's like, you know what? I'm not losing weight fast enough. And I was like, you just told me a week ago you were in the best place you've been in. Like you've sold 5-6 companies right now for 9 figures. You have all the money in the world. You know this stuff takes time. It is no different than business. If I sat here every day looking at my bank account going, all I want is $50 million in my bank. All I want is $50 million in a bank. And I just stared at it like, it's not gonna happen. It's the same thing with the scale. Like people are waking up every day like, all right, it's like, I'm gaining weight, I'm losing weight, it's driving you crazy. Like focus on the principle to be able to build a business. The process, it's all, the reason why you're great at what you do is because you've learned to enjoy this process. Whether it's business, whether it's your fitness, this is part of your DNA now. But think about the amount of time you put into it. Think about the amount of sets that you and I failed at, or the amount of moments where maybe we overreached, or maybe we failed at a set or didn't get that rep. Most people look at that as like, oh, you told me to do 10 and I only gave you 9. I'm looking at that like, fuck yeah, baby, I gave you my effort. Like, but they're looking at it as something negative. Like if I come up a rep short, all I'm asking is this. I'm asking myself one thing. Did I give 100%? Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, look, I think, I didn't expect you to say that one. That's why I love that you said it, because it brought me back to like, you know, there's been like, I've fucked up a lot of stuff in my life. But for me, that word surrender, you know, the moment, like when I got help and it was like, hey, like that was a big thing, especially for guys, like ask for help. I was like, I don't know what to do here, man. I'm fucked, you know, like I need help. I went into therapy. I did best thing I ever did for myself in that realm, right? But it was like, you can't go in there and go, no, I read this book on psychology and I think like, dude, you're here asking for help because you don't know what the fuck to do. Like, surrender.
I used to pull in the gas station, before there was iPhones, I remember I would pull in the gas stations and ask for directions. And I remember I was riding around with a woman one day, I was young, and she's like, most guys would never want to admit they didn't know where they were going. I'll never forget that, it's stuck in my head. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to sit here wasting 20 minutes driving around getting lost. So I do not know this area, and I'm asking where I have to go. I never understood that. Like, I'm not a self-made person. Like, I got to where I got to through help, through luck, through people opening doors for me, opportunity. Like, I would not have gotten to where I was today if I was like stubborn and said, I'm gonna do this on my own. Like, no, there's people that believe in you and you gotta rely on that. I've had coaches leave me in the past who are like, oh, I'll do it better than Don. And they're like, I'm gonna cut him off completely because I'm gonna do it on my own watch. And I found out about it. You know what? They lost so much opportunity. Because when they were in a certain area of Manhattan, I could have given them the biggest names in Hollywood, and I didn't because and then they call me up years later apologizing. Like, you know what, man, I probably didn't handle it the right way. I learned my lesson. This is really tough. I said, man, don't worry about it. It's all good. We all make mistakes. We all live and learn. But asking for help, I think, is a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. Actually, that made, when you said, you know, I'm not a self-made man. But nobody is, by the way. As soon as you started riffing on that too much, and you said something, you made a little post too, and I shit you not, you know, I was writing a tweet post, and it was like, I've spent a lot of my life, especially younger years, you know, you tell me I can't do this, fucking I'm gonna, you know, like I'm gonna use that fuel. I think there's a time and a place for that. But you wrote something, and it was literally in my notes because I was reading a book. I said, man, what if you proved, like, even if prove them right, like, but even if it's one person, right, like, what if it's one person's like, dude, you could do anything, like, you could be. Forget about the haters. Like, what if you could just prove that person right?
I stole that. You know what? I stole that from the head coach of the University of Louisville college baseball team. I'm sorry, not the head coach. He was the head hitting coach, one of the best hitting coaches in the country. And I was having a conversation with him recently, and he said, prove them right. And I went, holy shit.
What a different frame, because it's not negative, right? Like,
it's not negative. Yeah. Everyone's sitting there with like the chip on their shoulder, and I get it. But there are people in your life, like, my mom at a young age was like, I had insecurities at a young age. I talked to you about it, like the stutter, I had a hearing problem. And when I got really good at baseball at a young age, I remember going, I've told this story before. I remember going on in during lunch, there was a pickup baseball game and I went out there and I was practicing a lot with my dad and I just beat the shit out of everyone. I was the man. I got home, I looked at my mom and I said, oh my God, Mom, I'm good at something. I was in 2nd grade. And she's like, you're gonna be good at a lot of things. And I thought about that because prove her right.
Yeah.
She told me something like, I'm not gonna sit there and I don't wanna put, I've had people even on social media who say things and you, like for a second you catch yourself, you're a little angry and you wanna, and I don't mind admitting this, like part of me is like, you know what I'm talking about. You're like sitting there like, and I'm notorious for writing out emails to people and putting it in drafts and be like, I'm gonna look at this tomorrow
morning.
And then the next morning I go in and I'm like, whoa, and I'm like, delete, like, but why? Like, I'm at the point in my life right now where I don't even want to put a spotlight on someone who's trying to take credit for a client I worked on. Like, I'm not gonna have that argument. I don't want to do that. I want to focus on positive situations. Coming out here this weekend, positive. Us working with a group of people tomorrow who are paying money and traveling to come in and work with us. That's like, dude, that's the gift.
That's the gift.
These
Honor,
people,
right?
I feel privileged that people are driving up here. Some people driving 2-3 hours, getting on a plane to come see us, to learn from us. That's a privilege, and that's, I'm looking at things like that in my life, and I'm feeling really blessed about it.
Absolutely, and I wanted to ask you because you brought that point up. Those lessons. So, and the thing is too, you've been around so many, I would say, different fields, successful people.
You too, same thing.
When you think about like these principles, and I think I think a lot of these can probably carry over to both business and life because I know, we're meshing left and right. All these principles apply to success no matter where you go, right? Which is what I love about it. But what are some things that you're like, man? And I don't care, who said it, it's more about the lesson, right? But that you were like, just like the surrendering part. They said, hey, that's the top 5% people do that. Like, what are some things that pop up to you that like,
first, you just said it and something popped up into my head. I was with one of my clients, his name's Jerry, I don't mind saying, he was one of my mentors, uber successful. Actually, I'm going to tell you who he is. He actually is partners with Dwayne Johnson in the XFL, started the S Network, did Alex Rodriguez's contract after Scott Boras. Very successful guy. He was a Goldman partner for years, and he left and he started his own private equity company. And we used to go out for breakfast, coffee once a week after a training session. And he was just like, he was my mentor. We just sat there and we talked. And he looked at me one day when I started getting into the digital business, like 10, 12 years ago. And I remember him like literally slamming his hand down on the table. And he's like, dude, he's like, you need to focus on your brick and mortar. It's not there yet. Stop throwing so many balls in the air where you're gonna dilute everything that you need to be working on. This is where you need to be. Focus on this. And he was right, because I was like trying to hit that. Everything in my career, it was never the grand slam yet. I'm hitting a lot of base hits. Yeah. Singles, doubles, bunts, getting on, manufacturing runs. But it hasn't been that like grand slam where we like made $500 million and whatever. If that happens or not, fantastic. But he's like, focus on getting great at the gym. And like it literally forced me to take a step back and say, all right, man, like sometimes it has to be a little bit boring. I had the conversation with my wife the other day. We were talking about another project and I'm like, we need to keep fueling. I'm like, Mel, we're in a really good place right now in our business. We need to keep becoming or trying to become exceptional at that. Some of these other things sometimes, and we've talked about this, it's like, it's a good idea, but then it starts taking you away from your bread and butter. If this is making you, I'm making this number up, $200,000 a month, like you could turn that into 400,000 probably pretty easily. Why are we sitting here
taking it,
nickel and diming,
to
make it 1,000 a month? Like it makes no sense to me. Like it's a good hit, but it's not what you do. And I think that's something early on. I had this line: throw balls in the air, opportunity, the hustle. Like I always was a believer that like the harder you worked, that's success. Like I came from a blue collar, catering. My grandfather, he told, like one time I remember going into the bathroom with him and the toilet was clogged and I was like, I'm gonna get a plunger. And he's like, put your hand in the toilet right now and unclog it. And I remember looking at him, I go, what? He goes, no. So I just ripped my hand in. And so I ripped my hand in and I was like this, and I pulled it out, and he was just like, it was a women's napkin, right? It was tampon. Yeah, I can't believe I just said napkin. He don't says that. It's what he said. But he looked at that, and I kind of made a face, and he's like, bullshit. He got really pissed at me. He was like, bullshit. Don't ever let me hear you make a face when you get your hands dirty. This is who you are. This is where you come from. You are never too good to clean a toilet. And that was a lesson at probably 13, 14 years old that I learned. And that is what kind of molded me to turn around and put my head down and try and run through walls.
Man, see, we didn't plan this, I promise, like when you said this, because this, I believe, is one of the big obstacles, right, for most, is like trying to do a lot of stuff. And there's something that's actually going pretty good, right? So it's like, it's going good, but if you gave it more effort, it would multiply, right? So an example would be, in-person business, people trying to do digital products, but it's like, man, you're doing good. Like you could triple your business if you just zoned in, focused, and like give it some longevity, and then other things will become easier to do, right? And look, it's funny, it's like anything that you talk about, I find myself going like, yeah, he's right, because I gotta,
you and I come from the same cloth.
It's like, I gotta do that. No, because I think it's so important that, like, when people look at somebody, and if people are looking at us and go like, man, these guys are successful, like, know that we're constantly working on stuff. And when we have a conversation, it won't be like, oh, I'm great, everything's awesome. Like, we're like, man, I gotta work on that, dude.
Oh my God, how many times have you and I sat down, I'm like, what are you working on for this? Or what do you do for that? Or even in training, I'm like, what do you, like, it's interesting to hear for me how you said, well, I went to 3 days here and 1 day there doing this. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I've learned so much from you, and I've learned so much from good people around me, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's all the time. Beautiful. And it's like, when you say that, like, we're podcasting right now, but really I'm just having a conversation.
We're just rapping.
And I'm like, shit. Yeah, that's 2 points already.
Yeah,
Don's got me on 2 points.
Oh, man,
but it's like, but that's the whole point. Like, if you have that curiosity, never done. I'm never done, right? I'm always in. I
think we die. I think we start dying.
That's it. It's beginning and end, man. Like,
Luka, if I dropped $1 billion on your lap right now, and I get it, we'd all be happy with that. There are little things in your life that would change, little things. I think you would be miserable not coming in here, and I think if they remove that hustle, I think if we turn to you right now, it's like, Luka, I'm going to give you $1 billion, but you got to give up. You have to give up everything here right now. You have to give up the people, the hustle. I think you'd have a tough time deciding.
I'd be miserable.
Yeah, I think you'd be miserable. I don't know if you know. I don't know what I would do. Like, Don, I'm going to put $1 billion in your bank right now, tax free, and most people, you're an idiot not to take that, right? But like, you can never coach someone again.
Dude, I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, am I gonna be? Is 6 months? I'm not one of these people. I love golf. I know I can't play golf 7 days a week. Yeah. I could still train fine. Like, I can't coach. I can't be around. You can't be around. You can't go train with these people that you love. You can't have that feeling. But we're gonna remove that from you. It sounds ridiculous. I don't know, man. That question makes me sick.
I mean, I'm thinking about it because it's a deep thing, and I'm like, you can't. But this is the point, right? And you've like, we're talking about people that have made hundreds. Like, I know people. I know you know people. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Companies worth $1 billion. Yeah. Like, enough money to where you don't have to do shit ever again, right? Are they not ever doing shit again? You know that that's not the case, because half of our life, maybe more, is work, right? So to me, it's always been this mentality of like, look, if you sleep 7 hours a night, you got another 17. You work 10. If you work 8 hours a day and you want to be successful, all right, we could talk about that. But let's say you work 8 to 10, right? Which means what?
8 hours?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
What do you mean?
What is that? Like 8 hours a day? I don't know what that is.
Never heard of that.
I knew what that was back in like '93 when I was like 12 or some shit, right? But
it's a 40-hour work week still exists. I don't even know what that is. Is that a thing?
4 8s. We have 4 8s, bro. And but it's like, you think about that and you look at the percentages and you go like, well, I mean, from age whatever, like 20, you're gonna work half of your life, right? To me, to imagine going, I'm not gonna do something that I'm into, love, like I'm, Carol Dweck, like, I would say, or what's not Mindset, the book, but I'm blanking. When you're in the zone, I was with that, but like, to be in the zone, to be like engaged with the work that you're doing, to be fulfilled, for it to be meaningful. Dude, I don't, like, what can you pay me to do? Like, hey, here's money, but now you got to do some shit that maybe, you don't love doing.
You know what I can't stand? Like, I can't stand when people turn around and they say, well, if I had their money, I would never work again, right? I had one of my clients, a very good friend. He was a big Lehman guy. It's irrelevant what his name is. No one's going to even know him. But he's a very, very successful guy. And I remember he would be at the gym every morning at 6 a.m. He didn't have to work a day. He does not have to work at all. Very successful business. And he looks at me when I turned 40 and he goes, hey, Donnie, I want to ask you a question. You know, you're getting older. And I said, yeah. He goes, you know, I see you doing all this crazy stuff online. You know, you're, doing all this nutty training and stuff. Like, when are you going to slow that down? And I said, hey, so-and-so, let me tell you a story about a guy that I know. He's in his 60s, probably worth $500 million. He's in here every morning, 6 a.m., grinding. I don't know why. Like, he's walking out by the time people are walking in his suit, showered, changed, already trained 90 minutes. Everyone's walking in with their eyes half shut at 7:30. He's walking out of here in an hour, which means he's got to get up at 4 a.m. to get in here because he's coming from Long Island. And he looked at me and he goes, I get it. He said F you to me, like, basically, but he basically looked at me and he said, I get it. It's like, that is who he is. That is part of what allows him to feel significant. That is what gives him the energy and drive and fuel. And that's why I brought up that stupid example of the $1 billion, but it's a good question.
No,
like,
it is a good question.
This is who you are.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot take that away from you.
No, and we need it.
It's how you're built. And
we
need
need that.
it.
And also, man, I was listening to, I think Patrick, it was PBD podcast, but they said, whenever because there was this conversation about certain companies and countries moving to like less hours a week, this, that, the other. But it said, no matter when you retire, you got 9 years. So you retire at 55, you got 9 years to live. You retire at 65, you got 9 years to live, right? The people don't do well with not having stuff to do because work is also what makes us feel valuable, significant, hopefully the right work, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like, you should, I know that for me, we joke around 8-hour day, this, that, the other, but give me 8 hours to do something that I feel is like, man, right? I'm gonna be exhausted.
Yeah.
Give me 15 hours of work a day of something.
Doing something you feel, and you know what I'm talking about, man. You've had those days where it's like, well, you started at 5 and you're teaching a class at 8 and your energy just kicks in. Like you said to me today, like, yo, I got my 4th win right now. I'm like, oh, keep going? Like, because you just feed off of each other. People are looking at us like, when's this gonna be over? Like, it's like, they're like, you know what I'm talking about? But I think that energy, that's part of who we are, and I don't know how we're gonna do, or if someone tried to take that away from us.
Yeah, and I don't even. The thing is like, why even change? If you get to know yourself, it's like, know thyself is such a big part of it, right? Mm-hmm. But I've tried certain things, and look, growth I think is about learning how to. My thing is, how can I get better at turning off when I need to turn off, right? Like, but the thing is, I don't ever want to tune down. See, that's a different story, right? It's like turn off so I can recover. But I don't ever want to tune down who I am because it's like, I love who I am and I like this is the way that has helped me become successful. And I think sometimes like people try to take that away from themselves, right? Because it's like to try to be somebody else. It's like, no, be like, you're one of one. To me, that's the same answer to, how do you succeed in industry? It's like, dude, like nobody can be you. Nobody can be Don. Like nobody can be Luka.
Right. Yeah, no.
You got to be your best. If somebody tries to be you, man, they're going to be like a shitty version of you, right? Like, and people they try to be too much like somebody else. It's like, dude, there's things about you that are amazing. Like, play on those things, be those things, and that's the differentiator. Because you know what? Like, you get us on the podcast, right? You were just on a Mind Pup, and it's like, if you ask those guys, like, hey, all right, give me the principles of training. Dude, we're gonna say
the same thing.
90% of the same. It's just gonna be the same things, right? Like, and then you go here and it's like, oh, I love this guy. I love this guy. Yeah. We might do things a little bit differently and change, but there's going to be all these principles. So what makes them different than me or you? Or it's, overplayed word, but like the authenticity and like just being like all the quirks and the weird shit that, like whether you love Dungeons and Dragons and you love this or you like that or you're a sneaker, like you got to play on that. Not play on it, just be that.
Yeah.
And that's going to stand out.
I totally agree.
What I mean?
100%.
But because, here's the thing, like you've done an incredible job. Like this is the other reason why I think we get along so well, because we're clangers and bangers and we coach so much. We put so many hours in that, both own gyms. Yep. I do stuff online. Like you've basically, most of your business now is online. Yep. And it's like those, and you put in the work. The transition, like what do you believe are those principles of success that, if you are going into that realm, what do you think like really matters? If you're a coach and you're like at some point in time you want to do something online, what is your advice to them?
It's funny because I was transitioning online years ago. And I started a company and it did well for a while, then didn't do well for a while, and then launched a challenge, 10 years ago, and it did okay for the first one, right? I think we made the first challenge, we made 13 grand profit. Okay, a little extra money, but couldn't fully commit to it. And I feel like my online business really went through the roof when I didn't have the brick and mortar to focus on. And I think you really have to, and I was talking to you the other day about a podcast. So I've had a podcast for 5 years with Derek. We're going to be on it this afternoon. And we have a great discussion, but we're just not putting anything behind it because we just don't have the time. And for me to come in and I would have to hire someone. I really believe that to make something great, you got to go all in on it. This is not all right, well, we're just going to kind of mess around and have some discussion and hope it goes to the roof. It never really happens. Maybe 10 years ago with social media, you have a bunch of goofballs that don't know much about fitness and they start posting and the next thing you know, they've got 4 or 5 million followers. But even them now, I look at their business and I've talked to them and it's vanity metrics.
It won't do longevity.
It's not doing longevity and they're
Yes.
not really doing, they're posting everything that looks good. But when you really peel back the layers and you look at their business, you're like, oh wow, they're not. I'm doing way more than this guy who's got 20 times the amount of,
hey, listen, what an important, I would say, point. And
Right.
somebody that I train that has a lot of followers too, and we had this conversation and has an online business.
Yes.
And I would say does, really well for I would say for most standards. And, obviously Den and Kelsey, we know them.
Yes.
But this is a great point because there's folks with millions of followers and it's just
doesn't mean they know business.
No, they're not making all this money that you think that they're making.
Doesn't mean they know business.
And it might be like this.
Yeah.
Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
It's not a real business, right?
Right.
And that's such a good point on the all-in part of it.
I call them vanity metrics. I mean, if I was to turn around right now and say, hey man, you've got X amount of revenue streams, a lot. I'm taking them all away from you, and I'm going to take the weakest one of your revenue streams, and this is all you have to focus on. I can guarantee you would take that and blow it to the roof because that's who you are, right? And you're going to sit there and you're now going to put all your eggs into this. But it's tough when you're starting a business and you're building up different facets of your business. You got to put, you need capital. You need to invest in different areas. You need to recognize someone's got to run this area. And when you try and do everything on your own, I'm the king of that, man. I did it for years. You've done it also. You've talked about it. You're wearing 50 hats and you're getting it done. But sometimes you're like, man, if I had 5 people right now who all specialize in one area, each of these areas, I've got probably 6 revenue streams right now. If I took 6 people who are masters in those areas and I put them on salary and gave them health insurance and go, I want you to optimize each one of these areas, I'd probably be making, an extra X amount of millions of dollars a year next year. And it would literally be, I believe that.
It's a great point. Again, Don hit me with the, because I'm in this realm now where I'm having these ahas in last year where it's I made a decision for the gym business where it's all right, I'm going to heavily invest in bringing somebody in as a savage, and it was a big aha moment for me. I can't do certain things that I want to do.
I've seen that. I've seen you delegating more now. Even the other night on the floor, I saw you in here delegating. It's
got to happen. And it's it basically comes back to, and I said, okay, what is it that I love? I love coaching. I don't want to drop coaching. I don't. I just love coaching. All right, cool. What am I not the best at? What do I not enjoy doing? What can somebody do 5, 10x better than me? Right. And then it's you got to pay the price. There's always a price to pay, right? So, and the price might be at the beginning when you don't have money and multiple revenues. The price is your time and energy, and you just got to be a savage. I mean, look, I sometimes people would try to ask me for this advice. I'm like, look, man, you just got to do more, a lot more. You got to be more focused. You got to put in more hours. You got to put in more work. And I'm sorry, but every person that that has achieved the things that you want to achieve, go talk to them. Don't just talk to me. They'll talk to you, and it's dude, it's the same. It's the same answer,
they're
right?
Not and another thing too, you look at the people that are truly great, the ones like one person that inspires me a lot is Ryan Reynolds. I mean, he's been a client of mine for 14 years, and I'm not talking about Ryan as a celebrity.
You told us. I want you to tell that story.
Yeah,
the one story. No, dude, about the FaceTime. This.
Oh yeah, no, he started. I know he's a remarkable person. I mean, first off, him and his wife and Blake have done more for me in my business than I can even go on to tell anyone. But I've learned so much from them. From first off, how they deal with their beautiful family and the type of people they are, how they deal with people around them. But when he goes into business, he's not like, oh, give me 5% of the company and how many posts do I put up a month type of thing, which I can't tell you how many brands call me a week, and they're like, we're trying to structure a deal with so-and-so. What do you think we should do? We're dealing with their agent and their agent's trying to negotiate a certain amount of posts per month. I'm like, drop them. And they're like, but we haven't even told you who the name is. I'm like, doesn't matter. I'm like, I don't care if it's Brad Pitt. I don't care. I don't care if it's Tiger Woods. Drop them. It's no. They're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, let me tell you something. If you're going into business with a celebrity or a well-known person, they should be asking, how do I add value? They shouldn't have an agent who's collecting 10% and the attorney who's collecting 5% and just wants guaranteed cash to turn around and say, well, they'll do one post a month and one story. Bullshit, it's not going to work. And they never work. Ryan was on the phone with like distributors for Aviation Gym and truck drivers and talking to people about their routes, and they're thanking them.
Think about that.
Calling them up and thanking them for the work that they did and doing really nice things for them afterwards. And I'm not going to get personal, but like, oh my God, like he was an owner.
That's insane. Yeah,
He was handling it as if he was a mom and pop liquor store in Long Island, having a relationship. He's putting calls in to truck drivers.
I mean, this is what, because you said like people were like hanging up.
Like, no, this isn't him. Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, this
they
is
didn't
Ryan
believe
Reynolds.
it.
Like,
but that's when you look at someone of that caliber, and then you wonder why. Listen, he'll be the first to admit it. Did he make, just mistakes in the past, or did things go wrong? But he says, sure. I mean, I'm not saying anything that's private. Like, he'll admit that. He would never lie about that. But like, I think how he handles business now, he's in. First off, he's got to believe in the product, or like what he's doing now at Wrexham Soccer over in Wales.
Yeah.
He loves it. He's passionate about that. He'll fly over there for one game and fly home. Like he's a nut about it now. Like everything he's doing, he's not sitting there going, oh, no. He's an owner in the company, and he's trying to build the awareness of that company and make it the best product possible. And he's changing lives, and he's creating opportunity, and they're charitable, and they're giving their money away, and they're doing all these things behind closed doors. And like I look at that and I admire it, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is fun to watch.
You know what
this
I'm
is
hearing,
fun
man?
to be. This is fun to be a part of.
Yes,
this.
absolutely. But the thing, what I'm hearing is like the hands dirty part that you even said is like that. This is what fires me up, right? Where you have somebody that's at that level. That again, you don't have to really. I mean, his life would be perfectly fine if he didn't do any of these things.
Sure, make his money on movies, but he wants to create.
But he wants to create. It makes him feel alive, and But the lesson is that like the greatness. It's like you don't stop doing those things, right? Like you that's what made you great. You do those things, and like that whole all-in mentality is like at these levels, and that's the lesson.
And
like,
he's not setting the bare minimum. Think about that also. Oh, well, what do you want me to do?
Okay, I'll do those. I'll do these things.
And then we're fine. Like when I even negotiate a deal for myself, I'm saying, listen, send me your expectations. This is what I say, because I'm gonna over-deliver. That's my line every time. Yeah. I just want to know what you guys are expecting so I can go above that. And it helps in negotiating a contract. If they're asking me to do, 24 hours a day of work, like, all right, we have to talk about that deal. If they want, listen, could you just bring awareness and open your Rolodex and do connections like I did today? Great, I'm happy to do that also. But I have to believe in the product no matter what. I'm not going to get involved with the company if I did not do my research and I have a minimum number in my head, 6 months. I have to spend a minimum of 6 months on a product for me to even be able to have a conversation about a deal or whether it's worth it. Because when I put on an Oura ring, how am I going to be able to tell if I like it or not in the first week? What if in a month I'm losing motivation to use it? Why am I going to work for the company? If I lose motivation to use it, then I can't really be trusted. It's not believable that, well, Don's using it. So everything I use now, like when I worked for, On Running for years, like I love their product. I'm not going to wear it, but were they paying me? Sure, but like I'm not going to wear a crappy product because someone's paying me. So I also think there's this level of authenticity. It's that same word, man. We keep using it, that it just shines.
But people, because people can tell it. You know what I mean? Like, look here. There's three things that like I try to always. Like, for me, it's like this. These points of it, right? One is belief.
Yeah.
Right. If you believe in something, dude, you're good. Like, if I believe and care. It's like you call me in the middle of the night, you're like, dude, I need you to come out here. You don't need to tell me why I'm coming, right? Because I care and I believe about the stuff that you do, and you being like such a close friend of mine. But then there's the all-in part of it, right? If you're listen, you want to dabble in shit, but be great. Dude, it's like this doesn't exist, right?
It doesn't exist.
And so you got belief, you got all in, and to me, like you got to be willing to. Doesn't mean you always have to like get your hands dirty, right? Because I think you got to be willing to get your hands dirty. But number 4 is like who, not how. That's the big thing that I'm hearing now. Is like, you know, I know a lot. I learned a lot of the hows my whole career, how to market, how to do this, how to train, how to, you know. And now it's like who needs to help me here. You know, who needs to be the person that's 10 times better than me at this fucking thing, right?
I'm stealing that from you.
Oh, dude, the whole time I'm like now it's like, I love doing this, that's me. I'm gonna go deeper. Right? I'm gonna have fewer things, then I'm gonna go deeper in and be like, I wanna be the best in the universe at this. And that's just my mentality. I'm not, you know, people say, like, you really believe that? I'm like, I do, because that's what drives me, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, these things, I don't love them, I'm not great at them. Somebody's way better. Let's find that person.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
I also like, there's certain areas, even tomorrow, we're gonna speak to a group of young fitness people, and it's like, there's areas that some of them are gonna be like, I just don't wanna do this, or I just don't like this, or I just don't know, or and everyone's like, well, you gotta learn it. But I'm like, well, if you're not gonna learn it, because you understand sometimes, you know, in the past, someone would hand me something and it's like, you're not feeling it.
yeah.
And then years later, you're suddenly like, I gotta do, like, I remember my buddy Tiago Passos, my head trainer for 15 years, turned to me, whatever it was, 10, 12 years ago. He's like, you gotta get into Facebook. He said that to me, you gotta get into Facebook. And you know what I said to him? Instagram. I was like, oh, you know, I was actually longer than that now. Jesus, it's 2023. So I probably got on Instagram in 2012, 2013. So I think it was like 2010.
Yeah,
Like,
it was like beginning.
You got to get into this. And I was like, this is what I said. You ready? My life is private. This is my personal stuff. And and I can't tell you how many celebs came to me and they were like, I'm never doing it. Or like, you know, you're listening to, you know, a well-known fitness, you know, I think, I don't want to mention his name, but like a well-known fitness person is like, oh, social media is going to kill people and it's going to ruin lives. And then, you know, 10 years later, I see him on Instagram going, hey, there's a coupon code here for you if you want this. And I'm like, all right, dude, like come on, man. Like we this is part of our life now. This is part of society. Like, stop shitting on it and start embracing it. Like, social media could be a really great thing. And you know what? It could be a really terrible thing. There are some really great people out there. There are some really great, terrible people. There are some great restaurants out there. There are terrible restaurants out there. There are great trainers. There are terrible trainers. It's the life we live in. Stop generalizing things that, oh, social media is going to kill. It's helped our businesses out. But I also understand, and you understand, it's not our business.
Yes.
It's not if you shut it down tomorrow, we'll be fine. Right? And
that's the key, though. That's a big one that you said. You know, because I'm always like, look, I think that it's a way to me, it's a megaphone, right? Like, how many more people do you reach with that, right? Now, if your message is a message of negativity and bullshit, you know, then that's what you're going to attract and get problems. But if your message is one of helping, delivering value, inspiring, like, right? To me, it's like educate, inspire, and entertain, right? Those are the three things. And if you do that, and I get more people that I'm helping, and like, I know you get this too, I'm blown away. And like, sometimes I get teary-eyed. I get these messages. I show them to my girl, and I'm like, you know, she's like, this is crazy. Like, they're like, you know, legitimately a coach is like, hey, my whole village does your workouts. I'm like, what? This is insane, bro. It's like fucking insane. And I'm just sitting there going like, oh, all it does is fire me up, right? So it fires me up to do more. So it's like, be that person, and then social media can be something very positive, right? So use it for, it's like anything else. Use your powers for good, you know? And don't let it use you. You know, again, you got to work on yourself to not let it control you. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to, you know, it's not going to run your life. So if it shuts down, it's like, we're still ourselves. We still got other stuff.
You got to move on. You got to move on.
And I think that, listen, I got to look at the time because I know we got to, Okay, we got 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes, baby. Because you know we can go on forever.
Oh, but, you and I could do this.
Listen, I actually, a couple things. I'm always interested in this. What are some things that you're working on and thinking about? Just, you know, shit that you're like, hey, listen, I'm working on this because I want to get better at it, whether it's training, business, personal development stuff, things you're thinking about. Like, what is that? I'm just
intrigued. So our business now, it's still pretty new, right? It's 3-4 years old. I mean, granted, you could say it's new or you could say it's old. I mean, someone said the other day, Don's a 20-year overnight success. It's like I had to go through all these things with brick and mortar and the digital space and the highs and lows and to get to where we are now. But like, I still feel like the pandemic was a new springboard for us to launch this new online business and launch Dino brands and all the things I'm doing with these companies. And I think what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to continue to find exceptional people to come in and help us in categories and build that, right? And I'm recognizing that for us to turn this business into a multi-million dollar profitable business. And listen, we can right now, if we drew a line of where we are, we're going to live a great life, and my wife and I are going to be happy, and our kids will live great, and all that stuff. But again, it's that want to get better and to improve and to offer more and to touch more lives. And I think the thing I'm really trying to focus on is not spreading myself too thin. I've been cutting back on some of the brand deals now that I'm realizing are probably, years ago, wow, it's making me money, but it's not. When you weigh it out and you're like, okay, this is making you X, this is making me Y, and it's even giving me more fulfillment, like, where do you start putting your time into?
If you put energy into it.
It's really mature decisions that I've had to make over the last few years. And saying no for me is something in the past I was never able to do. And now I've learned to do. And it's one of the most powerful words that I think I've added into my vocabulary in the last few years.
This is my question for you based on that. My philosophy was and has been, the beginning stages of your career, dude, yes to everything. Like, overcommit. I really, no, seriously, like, because I think what happens is that you listen to somebody that's in year 20 or 15 and be like, say no more, and then people are like, yeah, I'm going to, like, no.
You and I we have so many similarities, but I think the area we were most similar in was that.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about. You building Vigor up, the client's asking you to open the place early, get it and train them, what time. I was getting in the drive at 3:45 in the morning because this guy was working for Lehman Brothers.
Before you continue, 3:45, he was at the gym. All right, continue. Everybody's listening to this.
3:45 at the gym, and I was living in the city at the time, so it was obviously easier for me to do, but there were nights where, when we moved to Long Island, I was sleeping in the physical therapy room on the physical therapy table with a sheet and towels as a pillow, because I had to be in so early the next day, because I knew that client was generating X amount of dollars a month for the club, and that was handling Y. And for me to say no to that membership and to that money, I will never look back on the effort I put in and even question that. I never. And trainers now, I had a trainer I fired when I had my club open, who we reconnected later on. He apologized to me, because he didn't want to come in from Queens for one person. He didn't see the value of it. I had an individual recently I was talking to about their fee. He goes, I'm making $600 a session. I said, wow, it's a lot of money. I said, how many people are you training? How many sessions are you doing a week? And he's like, 4. And I was like, well, let me ask you a question. Cut it back to $200 a session and triple the amount of work. And he's like, why would I want to do that? That's the worst advice I've ever heard. We're supposed to be making more money and working less. I said, let me tell you something. You have no opportunity. The second your client sprains their ankle or goes on a vacation, you're going to lose 50% of your revenue. They're not opening any doors for you. They don't feel obligated to you because they're paying you too much money. Turn around, charge $200 an hour, train, triple, quadruple that number, have them open more doors for you. I had my club built from a client who was in construction. I had this person given to me from another client. Like, there's no opportunity. The fact that we want to work less. When I worked at Equinox in 1999, I was opening the club at 5 a.m. and I was closing the club at 11 p.m. That's a heavy day, man.
That's a heavy day.
I had a smile. I was cleaning up weights. Like, fucking work, man. Like, you're sitting here trying to be Luka Hocevar, like, oh, well, Luka's speaking at events and making money online and his mastery club. Like, do you understand? Like, holy shit. Like, you want to start telling stories about your air travel over, how many hours you spent at 9/11, which I just found out about. Like, how about all the shit you went through back home? How about how about the days sitting in here going, am I going to be able to keep this place open? I love Mark Manion's story about sitting in the car begging his investor. I was literally doing the same thing. Some of my angels, going in there, come on, this is going to happen. Please, please, please.
Like, imagine that.
Begging on your knees. And they're looking like, this is a stupid decision. Look, we can't do this. Like, do you understand the level of humility? You think I'm standing here right now going like this? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, you want me to be sympathetic to the trainer right now that doesn't want to do 25 hours a week? They're tired. I had to work off $1 million. I had to work off $1 million in training. Do you know how much training that is? I was doing 40 to 60 sessions a week with kids. Like, because my business was burning money every month, and I had a personal guarantee on my club. This is personal shit. This is heavy shit. You went through stuff just as intense. Yeah. It was. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So when a coach is coming to me and they want a cushy schedule, and they want to take vacation time, and they want to do all this stuff, and they've been in the business a year or two, don't talk to me. Because what I'm going to tell you is going to be really harsh.
But it's true. And it's real. And this is why I love, talking to you, and like when we bring out Mark, because Mark is another guy that, like, I know you respect him.
Begging his client.
It's like, and like your whole life.
I get choked up, man.
Oh man, I can tell. See, but that's the thing, dude. I want to get emotional because it's like you feel viscerally what it took, right? And the reason why I love having these conversations is because it's like I want people to see, like, feel and see, be like, look, it's worth it, but man, like you gotta get real with what it takes.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, hey, if you want the average, that's cool. We're not having an average conversation. That has nothing to do with anything average. So if that's the goal, cool, that's great.
Luka, if someone's watching this right now and they work a 9 to 5 and they're going home to their family and they have vacation time and they're happy, they hit the pot of gold. That's it.
Yeah.
We're not all built that way.
Yes.
Some of us want more. Some of us don't, and it's okay. But accept where you're at with what you're delivering. Yeah. It's like, if you want more and you're sitting there going, I want to do the bare minimum, don't complain to me. But if you're sitting there going, I found peace of mind, which to me was the most important thing my grandfather ever told me, my mentor, peace of mind. If you found that right now, then honestly, you've got more money than anyone I know.
Power to you.
Yeah, and God bless you, man. And I'm not telling everyone that they have to live like you or I.
No.
But that's what we want.
Exactly. I think that's really, really important. But I think because the people that talk to you and the people that come talk to me and say, I want those things, it's like, okay, but here's what it is.
Those people who want those things are the ones who committed to coming tomorrow to see us in the industry.
100%.
They're the ones who are saying, you know what, this might be expensive, this might be a trip, I might be leaving my family, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to give a full day of my life because I want more. To me, that impresses me. And when I see people show up tomorrow, there's an immediate respect. I want to give my all to them, and you do.
And you already know. Dude, we're gonna do what we did in today's training session.
We're gonna kill it tomorrow.
Which we're gonna squeeze everything out.
I want them to leave. My goal tomorrow is for them to leave going, what the fuck just happened?
100%.
That was one of the most epic business and training experience I ever went through. Oh my God, I want to move into these guys' homes. I literally, that's what I want to do. That's what I want. I want them to have that type of, response.
And we will deliver. Yeah. Brother, I love you, man.
Dude, I love you.
You're the greatest. Dude.
Honestly,
hey.
I can't even, guys, you have no idea.
Listen, you know Don Saladino. If you don't know Don Saladino, you're living under a rock. Go follow Don Saladino, okay? Because he's the greatest.
Thanks,
listen, we're gonna be bringing it tomorrow. I will put all the show notes for everything Don's got going on, social media channel, business course.
Just happy to be here. You don't have to prove. Honestly, I'm just in a room up with my boy right now.
To me, this is the greatest time ever. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
But with that said, we'll see you in the next episode. If you loved it, hey, share this, because like to me, this is the most important thing. If you love the message, spread the message, share the message. That matters the most to me. And I will see you and hear me next time.
I'm going to share the message.
Yes, sir. Peace out.